In this episode, I talked to Charlie Nicklin, CEO of the Institution of Agricultural Engineers, where we talk skills for the industry, the importance of engineering, and the need to understand the industry to design the machinery of the future. Welcome to the next in the series of Agri-TechE's Agri-Chat podcast series. I'm here with Charlie Nicklin, who is the CEO of the Institution of Agricultural Engineers, and we're going to be talking about skills for the future of the industry. Charlie, welcome to the podcast. Lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, nice to be here.
So Charlie, I know you've got some strong views around skills and whether we are educating learners to be fit and suitable for the way the industry is going. And I guess we could argue that agriculture's been sort of built on three pillars of innovation: genetics, chemistry, and the kind of machinery engineering piece, which is close to your heart, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I certainly view sort of agri-tech through that mechanical systems, because of my background. So yeah.
Sure. So over the last kind of year, I guess, we've had the industrial strategy with agri-tech being one of the so-called frontier sectors in the advanced manufacturing sector plan. We've had Minette Batters has published her farm profitability review. Both of those are going to be critically dependent on having the right skills for our industry. Where would you say we are right now in terms of the suitability of skills to serve our industry?
I think, I'm certainly not an education expert, but I've been closely involved in education through the institution for the last few years. We have some fantastic educational establishments producing graduates of all levels. I just think we probably need to adapt that in the future. So in the UK at the moment, there is only one university that produces agricultural engineers, and those graduates go into full-time employment with ease. And we really need more, and I think we really need to start looking at what courses are offered at a graduate level, and really starting to weight them towards agri-tech. And what I mean by that, from my sort of lens, as how I view it, is we need some engineering qualifications that are heavily weighted towards autonomous systems, robotics, data handling, and that side of the engineering discipline, obviously coupled with agriculture, to really furnish agri-tech companies of the future with people to design these new products and systems that we're going to be so reliant on.
And I think you said an important thing there, sort of with the agriculture lens. So understanding the need for robustness in the field to be able to trundle through a dirty, muddy, wet field, or in a facility with a robotic dairy or whatever. It's understanding that context.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. If you went to a company that designed tractors and farm machinery, you wouldn't need to tell them how a machine needs to cope with the arduous environment, how it needs to have great tractive capability. It needs to climb the rolling hills of the Cotswolds. They take that stuff for granted, and I think that's where we need to make sure that companies designing autonomous robotic type vehicles, they're going to need that skill set in there, coupled with the robotics design and the software. And I think that's really important, that agricultural aspect. So engineers, they understand about crop cycles, they understand about soil and traction and the harsh environments, chemicals, and all these good things that go on in agriculture that they need to be aware of.
So in terms of people coming into the industry, is it an attractiveness thing? I mean, where's the problem? Is it at the technician level? Is it at A levels? Is it before A levels? What would you like to see done differently to tackle this problem?
I think we've had the challenge for a few decades, in that a lot of the time the people that go into agricultural engineering, whether it's at graduate level or whether it's at technician level, generally have some form of farming background. So they come from the industry, and we need to try and change that. And we've been trying to for many, many years. And I think as farms have got bigger, the sons and daughters of farmers that used to go to college and study engineering at the various different levels are getting fewer and far between, because farms are bigger and generally the children that grow into it are probably going to end up running the farm, not going off and doing engineering. So there's less of a catchment pool. So we need more people coming in from outside the industry. So there are some good things going on. So we work really closely with the Agricultural Engineers Association, which is the trade body, and then we have this We Are Land-Based initiative, and that's all about trying to educate 14 to 16-year-olds on what land-based engineering or agricultural engineering is all about. And we're just about to start look at a graduate level element of that as well. Focusing more on people who are doing A levels and national diplomas and some of that vocational stuff. But I think we do a reasonable job in terms of attracting people. I mean, I always think it's such a fantastic sector, because what other sector has got, machines and plants and animals and the countryside and all this good stuff? We should have people queuing at the door to come and work in agriculture, really. And it's a case of opening people's eyes up to just how sophisticated it is. It's a great place to work. I'm sure a lot of the people who get involved in robotics and autonomous systems and software really get amazed when they realize what agriculture is all about, and it's perhaps not as easy as some think to solve the problems.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope the narrative around agri-food, food security, environmental management, nature recovery would almost sell itself to people who are looking at which sector that they were going to apply their skills, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't have a discussion in agriculture now without using the word sustainability and environment. They go hand in hand, and they have done for years, to be honest. It's just much more evident these days. So, young people are so much more interested in the environment. People should be aware of where their food comes from, and it's a great sector to get involved with. And we need more people from outside the sector to come in and help solve the problems. Yeah.
So how worried are you at IAgrE about this sort of slight skills vacuum? I mean, I think, as my understanding is, that lots of sectors have these concerns. I think construction probably would have a very similar conversation. How worried are you for the future of your part of the industry if we don't get this right?
It worries me that we need to ensure we've got some homegrown talent coming through, because I think if you look at the traditional agricultural machinery manufacturers, there's two big tractor companies in the UK. One is JCB, one is Case New Holland, and then we have a big void, and then we've got lots and lots and lots of small to medium sized businesses. And if we want to develop solutions in the UK, we need the people. And if we haven't got the people, these solutions are going to get developed outside the UK, and we're not going to benefit from that. And I think it's really important that we have the people around us, because there's some great startup companies, and we need these startup companies to turn into proper commercial businesses and start producing some products and services and make some money. So we initially saw a big void in the technician level, but because of the cyclic way the industry operates, it's a bit feast or famine sometimes. And I think from a technician perspective, at that level, the businesses really struggle to find people, and they struggle to hang on to them as well, because they're in demand. And I think that's the case all the way through. You see that at lots of different levels. But when you do talk to other disciplines, like automotive, they do have the same sort of problems as well. So we're not on our own. I think, we just need more people to study, STEM at school and go and work in engineering and technology, ideally in agriculture, of course.
And the Institution of Agricultural Engineers, I mean, maybe if you could just give us a little bit of background about what the organisation and your members do, and then maybe come on to what are you doing to try and help this. You mentioned the collaboration with the AEA, but so IAgrE, what's a bit of background about what you do?
Well, we're basically a professional body, and our members are engineers, scientists, technologists who work in agriculture. And I think often people just think IAgrE is all engineers, but of course we've got the word agriculture in the title as well. We've got plenty of farmer members. We've got people who work in agronomy. We've got all sorts of people, because the industry is so diverse. You just look at agriculture, we've got horticulture, forestry, amenity, leisure, and it's what we'd sort of term the sort of land-based industry. So the common theme is always land. So our membership is really, really diverse, and it includes everybody from students, degree level, right through to industry people, research people, professors and academics and all sorts. So it's a real broad group of people. And the networking side is fantastic, because it's quite a, you might think you're working on your own in a certain area, but you can guarantee there'll be somebody else within the organisation that's working on a similar thing, So it is a broad group of people. So we're ultimately a big professional club for engineers and scientists involved in agriculture. You don't have to be an agricultural engineer. And I often find myself saying, you're an engineer that works in agriculture, so you should have relevance with what we do. It's the same words in a different order.
Sure.
Yeah, so I do have to explain it quite a lot. And the other side of what we do, we put on content for people in the industry, general interest. We do lots of CPD. And then the other side of what we do, if you want to become professionally registered, so if you wanted to become a chartered engineer, for example, we offer that service as well. And we do that for the environmental sector as well. So if you wanted to be a chartered environmentalist, yeah.
Okay, so you're sort of involved in the kind of lifelong learning and CPD as an organisation. Do you talk to government? I mean, if you had the ear of the Secretary of State for Education, I'm guessing you'd have a number of things you'd like to say to them.
Yeah, I mean, we're not lobbyists, that's for sure, but we do have some good contacts in the likes of DEFRA, and we do chat with them quite regularly and move in those sort of circles. So we do get the opportunity to talk to people about it. We're involved in, education's quite a strong theme. So we get involved in education right from technician level stuff right through to postgrad. We're involved in apprenticeship content development. We're involved in degree content development. We validate degrees, so engineering degrees at Cranfield and Harper Adams as examples, and some of the degrees in Ireland as well. We're involved in the validation and the accreditation of those qualifications as well. So we're also doing lots of talks with students. So we don't tend to gel quite well at school age level. That's not really where we fit in very well. But we do find ourselves at home talking to graduates. But the trouble is they've already made the decision to come into the sector. So that's where the We Are Land-Based initiative came in with the AEA, where they're very much aimed at school children, 14 to 16-year-olds, and getting them opening their eyes to our sector and our interest in it is.
Yeah, what a time to be in the industry with the transition to so many things. We are in quite an interesting place as a sector. And what would be your message to, let's say, a 16-year-old and a 21-year-old at that stage of their education? So someone who's sitting their GCSEs right now, what would your message be to them? And then a graduate?
I think it's a fantastic sector, and we're not very good at showcasing it really. And if you look at if you just look at the pace of technology, we're in the middle of the decade now, and you've got this whole transition. Just take engines for example. The whole industry survived on diesel from 20 horsepower in a lawnmower to 600 horsepower in a combine harvester, and all of a sudden we've got this transition now that what are we going to do in the future? And I think diesel engines will be around for a while yet, but we've got electric vehicles coming on, hydrogen's a potential source, biomethane, there's all sorts of things. So the technology side is immense. You look at the software and the technology that's in modern machinery. So if you're a techie person, and you're into your computers, into your phones and all that sort of stuff, agriculture is a great place to get into because of the sophistication, the technology that's on offer, and likewise, if you were sort of getting towards the end of your education degree level, it's a fantastic sector in terms of the opportunities that need to be solved, whether it's environmental, the sustainability aspect. There's huge potential. The land use framework has just been released. There's loads of opportunity in that to get involved. We need lots of people working collaborating together on that to decide on what is the best use of land. It can't all be protected for farming. We've got to give up some land for nature. We've got to give up some land for energy, housing. Everything's got to work together, and that needs people, technicians, engineers from all disciplines to work together. So it is a fantastic sector.
And as we said at the beginning, one of the three pillars that has brought agricultural innovation to where we are today.
Yeah.
Charlie, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you. And if ever we needed an ambassador to encourage people into our sector in engineering, you're clearly it. So thank you for joining me. That has been the latest in Agri-TechE's Agri-Chat podcast. Thank you for Charlie, and join us next time.
Thank you.
That was Charlie Nicklin, Chief Executive of the Institution of Agricultural Engineers. To learn more or to contribute to the conversation, reach out to Charlie via the Agri-TechE member page or visit the IAgrE website.